Yeah.
Hello everybody and welcome to today's review of Jordan Peele's Nope, starring Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Steven Yeun, Brandon Perea, and Keith David. This film, I've got to say, was always with Jordan Peele film, every time he comes out with it, one of my most anticipated films of the entire year, because you know that he has always something to say with one of his films, and you know he's going to play with genre conventions and kind of turn them and spin them on their head into his own favor to present the message that he wants to get across to his audience. And that's what I love about Jordan Peele. I mean, Get Out is one of the best debut films of all time, you know, we're talking about directorial debuts. And also, I think Us, despite its shortcomings, is still a really interesting idea of a movie. And that's what I love about him, because he's always bringing original ideas to the table. He's never rehashing, he's never retreading anything. And yeah, I mean, this is him teaming up with Daniel Kaluuya once again. As he said, he's like his De Niro, as De Niro is to Scorsese. And Daniel Kaluuya, obviously, Academy Award-winning actor, incredible in Get Out as well as Judas and the Black Messiah. So it's great to see him back in this cast as well. But this film, obviously, a lot of secrecy around it because you don't want to give away the plot to a Jordan Peele movie. The best way I could probably describe it is about these two siblings who have this ranch and are in the business with horses and whatnot. And they see something on the ranch that perhaps they shouldn't have seen, or perhaps someone doesn't want them to see. I'll leave that up to you. I want to leave it as vague as possible because this is really one you shouldn't go in knowing anything. And I tried to avoid the trailers. Inevitably, I saw the last trailer that came out when I go to the theaters, and you know they're playing beforehand. But I tried to steer clear of it mostly so I get a pretty fresh idea going into it. And I heard all the buzz, and people are saying, oh, this is like even better than Get Out, which I don't know about that, but there was a lot of hype going into this movie. And how does this stack up compared to his other films? You might be asking that. And let me tell you, your friend Nathaniel's here to help you out. I think it's his weakest film so far. But that's not saying that much, because Jordan Peele, as I said, is such an interesting filmmaker, and obviously he is really, really coming into his own as a director, especially with his visual style. I mean, this has to be his best film visually. And of course, here you got the famous cinematographer Hoyte van Hoytema, who shoots a lot of Christopher Nolan's films. And the photography here is just incredible, especially the way they shoot nighttime. It's just so atmospheric. It's so lovely the way they play with lighting. Everything about it really feels like this is Jordan Peele's most accomplished film from a technical perspective. Because Get Out, it was very, very low budget. Couldn't do a whole lot with it. In this film, they expand on, as I said, the cinematography, but just the visual effects, too, are incredible, especially for a movie like this. And I think that on that level, this might be his best film. But I think thematically, this film is a little bit dicey. But before I get into that, let me just talk about the cast. Daniel Kaluuya is absolutely terrific. Very, very subdued performance, but he's always doing something different in every single role I've seen him in. He is one of the most versatile actors of his generation, and I can't wait to continue with see next. He could have another Oscar on his mantle in the next 10 years. He really is that good. But I think, though, really the scene stealer here is Keke Palmer. She technically is the heart and soul of this whole movie, as great as Daniel Kaluuya is. I really think she's the one who has the most character, the most personality, and the one who really steals this whole show. Steven Yeun, of course, also is great in this. Doesn't have as much to do, I don't think, as the others, but is still great nonetheless. And I think Brandon Perea is absolutely hysterical. He's kind of the comic relief in this movie, sort of similar to Rod. Obviously not to that great effect, but he still is definitely a character you latch onto, and one you just enjoy his presence because he's such a goofball. And Michael Abel's score, I think, might even best or match Us. I just think that he is an incredible composer, and I can't wait to hear more from him because I really feel like I haven't heard a lot of his work, and he's certainly, I think he can even be nominated for this movie. I think it's one of the best film scores of the entire year. But yeah, let's actually talk about, well, without spoiling it, what this movie is about, because obviously we know Jordan Peele is very, very vocal in his films about race and all sorts of issues along the sort. This hardly has anything to do with race except for the fact that they come from this very, I don't know if I want to say prestigious, but I guess there's a lot of Hollywood blood and, you know, and kind of like their legacy with their great-great-great-grandfather, I believe he said. I think there was another great on it. He was the first black man on a horse in that first moving picture. And so they definitely have that rooted in their legacy, at least in the film. But I don't think this really is a picture about race at all. But there certainly is a message here, and I think it has a lot to deal with the way we deal with animals. And it's very, very interesting the way he approaches this, because I think on first viewing, you're not going to get everything. I certainly feel like I didn't. But I was reading some reviews on it, and I really see a lot of great points that he was probably making with this movie. I think that there are definitely choices that will leave you scratching your head at first and then be like, oh, that's intentional. With that being said, I think the framing of some of those decisions doesn't really play out in the best possible way. There's this whole sequence, which I think is maybe the creepiest sequence that Jordan Peele has ever created, with a monkey. That's all I'm going to say. And you're watching it and you're just so on edge the whole time. But then you watch the movie later and like, how does that play into it at all? It really is it feels like a red herring, but I feel like a lot of it was intentional thematic wise, but that's the thing, I just don't feel like the way they presented it made a lot of sense and was congruent with the message he was trying to execute in that way. But even so, this film also features some of the most brilliant horror that Jordan Peele's ever presented on film, and there's another scene in the film that you're going to be like, oh my goodness, that is just, it is so downright disturbing. But also, this film has some great humor, as you'd expect from Jordan Peele. I think that's probably the best part about a lot of his scripts, and it certainly has a very natural feeling to it, and I think that's why Jordan Peele's films are so funny, because they feel just like natural conversations that you'd hear in day-to-day life. And as I was saying, Angel in the movie, played by Brandon Perea, is really the one that stands out the most. People will also complain because they're going to say that this is his most genre-heavy film, and that certainly can be taken as a detriment, because I feel like out of all his films, this is the one that feels like it has the least to say. As I said, there's certainly something there, but there's a lot of things that could have been fleshed out in this movie, despite its message, which is very strong overall, I think. The character work could have been that much stronger. I feel like at first, the screenplay is so engrossing, and the way he's setting these characters up, it really is beat for beat by the book how to develop a great screenplay. But then I feel like he loses focus in the middle and starts shifting away from the characters at least a little bit, to the point it kind of becomes a generic climax. Not to say it isn't great, because I think the direction of said climax is really enthralling, but I feel like you lose the characters just a little bit in that. And I feel like if he just rewrote this like one or two more times, I think he could have honed in on their personalities and their goals and their motivations a little bit better. And I feel like there's certainly moments of it that just kind of feel lazy. Not overall, but there's definitely some moments where it was like, okay, I think that there would have been a smarter decision to make here. And I don't know, I just feel like, as strong as the direction is, as I said, I think this is really where he's coming into his own. I still feel like this film isn't his most well fleshed out product. And it's not the most disappointing thing you're ever going to see, not by any means. Honestly, I think if I gave this another rewatch, I think I might raise my rating. But as of now, I'm going to give Nope a 7.5 out of 10. Really solid third entry in his filmography. One that has a lot of greatness in it, has some flaws as well, But you're certainly going to enjoy this one if you go into the theater, especially if you're looking for a great sci-fi horror film, which this definitely has so many elements of. So yeah, guys, have you guys seen Nope? Let me know in the comments below what you think of it, if you've seen it. Maybe drop some interpretations without spoiling it. Of course, we don't want to be liable to spoil the movie to anybody. But if you like what you're seeing here, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a lot more movie reviews coming your way in the next couple of weeks. Stuff that has already been released and stuff that's coming out. A lot to talk about. And of course, if you're a big music fan, please contribute to the top 80 albums of the 80s list that me and Johnny Radio are doing. The deadline for that is going to be August 8th, so you have less than a week to get your list in. But we would appreciate all the support we can get, and we'd love to see what you throw on the list and to see what comes out in the final product. So yeah, guys, until then, keep watching those movies, and I will see you in the next video.